Hello and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to wrap up this week with a creator request, which is where a smaller artist gets in contact with me and asks me to check out their work. Today we're going to be looking at something from an artist called Locust, but you may recognize a project they were a part of that we checked out a couple of years ago called The CM Show. I'll link that up there if you're interested in that. But we're going to be checking out their new project here, which is called Locust. And the track we're looking at comes off of their EP that came out earlier this month. The song in question is Even in the Dark. Let's dive in and see what Locust has in store for us today. Solid 4/4 with an upbeat guitar riff. Lots of positive energy here. A lot of the movement pitch choices is descending.
Golden past that never was. Understand, it's so real.
We got the contrast from the staccato of the palm muting to the more full notes. Is that tremolo in the background? The chugging on the guitars through that verse, I think it needs just a little bit more energy. Maybe just a slight tempo increase, couple beats. The extending of that final emotion create tension to build into this from the chorus. Very interesting direction. Bringing the energy back down into a rockier sound, but bringing in moodier harmonies. Okay. You know, I hear something too on the lower harmonized vocals. They kind of have a gothic metal element to them. A very wide, darker tone. A belt on top of a harsh. Very interesting idea there to have all of that noise and dissonance. That's the wrong one. To have all that noise and dissonance to wrap up on the heavy resolution there on the final chord. Well, actually, the penultimate chord that leads well into the full resolution on the final note there that goes into the guitar slide and gives us a cool little edgy ending. This is kind of a bizarre, I mean, not right there. Moving from the noise into the release there is kind of a microcosm of the song as a whole. It's a really interesting mix of ideas. The verse and chorus are very heavy metal, maybe a little dash of hair metal in there as well, particularly with the vocal harmonies. The instrument writing, we have the chugging palm muting riff on the verse and then the syncopated chord playing on the chorus. Once again, very iterative of these styles. It's a solid iteration, but still, I don't really hear too much fresh coming out of there. It very much plays these styles and has a very clear inspiration for what they want to do with this opening part of the track. And I think they're mostly solid. There is that one element in the second verse where I felt that the palm muted guitar work was losing energy. I don't know if it was literally dragging temporally, but it didn't feel like we were moving forward. It felt like the song was beginning to fall apart. Maybe that was a timing thing. Maybe it's a production thing. I had given the advice, maybe just bumping up the BPMs 2, 3, 5, something like that, just to give it a little bit more energy there. I don't know if that's what needs to be done, but something about it feels like the song is losing steam. It's starting to drag a little bit. And I think it happens both times we enter that idea during that second verse. But otherwise, I don't really have anything negative to say about the verse and the chorus. I think that they do a pretty good job of capturing this very specific energy of sort of like an 80s sound, a very light metal style, well, light compared to modern metal. The vocal works great, the guitar works great, the drum works great. It all captures this vibe extremely well. And then we have... Actually, it's not verse, chorus, it's verse, verse, chorus, isn't it? Yeah, that's kind of interesting. Then we hit the chorus, though, and I thought this was cool, very upbeat. This is where the chords come in, and we have a 4-bar phrase, or maybe it's 8, and it's 4 repetitions. 4 repetitions. And then here we have another 4, but it is this tension, holding on to it over and over. It's not a progression. It's a holding on to this stress, this anxiety. I'm waiting for the release on this. And we don't get it. And this brings in the really interesting contrast in this track as we explore something a bit more metallic here. It's noisier, it's grittier, it's heavier. The drums are a bit punchier. The guitar is even more distorted than it was previously. We have a pretty solid guitar solo in here that I think does a great job of directing the music forward, telling a little bit of a story while still being rather reserved. It ends up feeling really well done. And this is interesting because I noted at the beginning of the track, we start the song off with some guitar work, and I said it sounds generally positive, upbeat, a very good vibe here. But then I noted that all the guitar pitches descend. Every part of the riff, the melody itself is focusing on a descent, whether it is descend once and then come up and descend again, or a just full-on descent, just one note after another going down. And it was sort of doing a little bit of foreshadowing here about this element of negativity in here. And I thought that was a really bizarre choice there, but it makes sense having listened to the rest of the track, because for all of the positivity in our verses and chorus, this bridge certainly shifts into something a bit darker, heavier. There's an intensity to it that eventually lightens up sonically as we return the guitar tone back to something a bit lighter, a little bit rockier, not as much grit and distortion as our metallic solo had, but the chords we use are incredibly moody. There is a gloom that is now situated around this track. It's not very long-lived, and eventually it sort of just dissipates out to bring back the chorus, which brings back the positivity and more energetic vibes. So I don't know if that was a really strong transition there, but it certainly showcased sharply the contrast between these two sides, between the the bridge, and everything else in the track. And of course, we go through this chorus again and we end it with the held, sustained tension back into the gritty metallic bridge again. This gives us our noise, our tension, our dissonance, and that takes us to the final resolution chord. This is a song that is very playful with its use of highs and lows by combining sounds and genres that I don't think I would ever combine or expect to be combined, and yet it kind of works. I think it needs a little bit of help, maybe production-wise, to help tie things together. It does feel like two very distinct songs that just happen to be smashed together, as if we have, changed the radio station midway through the song and went into a completely different metal track and then got bored of that and switched back to the 80s stuff. I think there can be a little bit more cohesion there. And I don't think, compositionally, maybe the transition into the final chorus could use a little bit of help, but I think compositionally moving from the first chorus into the bridge works really well. So I don't think it's that. I think it's more of a production thing, and as I'm not a really strong audio engineer, I don't really have much advice for that one. Maybe someone else who understands audio better might have some advice on how to merge the two, and I don't know, I guess get them working within the same color palette in a sense, where there's a little bit more conformity and overlap between the two ideas, where like if it was a Venn diagram, we have two very distinct songs, kind of overlap them a little bit sonically possibly, so that there's less of a jarring transition between the two, and that might help a little bit with that. But otherwise, I think that this idea of creating something kind of bright and cheerful and dancey, poppy, whatever you want to call it, from the start, and provide foreshadowing to a darkness that we will enter into as we get into a grittier metallic bridge is a very cool idea. And I think that generally the execution here works, even though I think it's a little rough around the edges. I think this is like 70% solid right here, 80% solid. It's one of those cases where it really is just focusing down on, little minute elements to clean up things that, most people aren't really going to pay much attention to anyways. That's the fun part of getting to the end of a project, is noticing the blemishes and, fixing them up, even though probably nobody else would even notice them. But I do find that, generally speaking, this is a very cool idea, and it is, for the most part, executed very well. So, I don't know what it all means, though. And I think that's where maybe the lyrics are going to help a little bit. As we got into that heavier section, I was a bit confused by it. And as we moved out of that into a moody rock idea, I had even less understanding of what the song was trying to say. Like, I get the general idea. The subversion is neat from an from a conceptual perspective. But I'm not sure what the song means to me. I didn't get a general narrative here. I sort of just got the rug swept out from under me, and I must have missed some things along the way that would help me understand what the rug pull was supposed to indicate. Like a good twist in a film, if you missed some of the details, the twist might not make any sense to you. And I think that's where I am on this track. Maybe some of those details, are snuck into the lyrics. So let's dive into those and see what's going on. I get a majority of this, but I don't. Let's just get into it, and we'll see where that takes us. The first verse states, "Here we stand on the precipice, holding on to a golden past that never was. Understand it's all relevant. We were always letting go of who we are." So I think this is interesting. It says that we are on the edge of change. And it says we're holding on to an idea of the past that was never actually how things were. So a lie or a facade of the past. But it says that we're always letting go of who we are. And I'm trying to relate that to the idea that our past is full of lies. I can kind of see the idea that we're letting go of who we are and progressing forward. But if we're basing ourselves off of who we were, and who we were is a lie, I don't know. I feel like the general message is here, but the wording makes it a little muddy, particularly that second line or the fourth line. I don't know, maybe change something about it. But I do think the idea here is that the past is relevant to where we are going, and we are on the edge of change. We can no longer be the way that we are anymore. The second stanza says, "Sometimes change is a necessity, compromises made to prolong complacency." And I think the idea that change is necessary and that the change is, or that we're making compromises to prolong complacency, again, I think I get the general idea of it. That if we want to move forward, we need to make changes. We can't keep doing things the way they have been. And what we have been doing has been compromises to prolong the complacency, not to have the tough times of actually changing things. But I don't know, when I read it, it's not immediately understood. I have to kind of look around it to get that meaning out of it. It says, "All the lines and the words are drawn out, no way of knowing quite where we belong." That is a majority of the information on this track. The chorus simply states that even in the dark, the writing is on the wall. So he says that us needing to change, being on the precipice of change, is something that is so clear you can even understand it in total darkness. Even not knowing the situation very well at all, you come in from the outside, and from the very first second, you're like, this doesn't work at all. It's just incredibly clear as day that change needs to happen. But then, in that extended tension part at the end of the chorus, the first time through, it says, "You can have it all. I don't know if I'm going to make it." This leads us into the harsh vocal section in the bridge that says, "I can't let go. You'll never know how far I'd go. There's fire below." And this is the part that confuses me. I don't understand how this relates to everything else. My best guess is we've probably had a perspective change, which is also what leads into the atmospheric shift and the lyrical idea change. All of this adds up to something else, someone else, their perspective on this idea. But I don't know if that necessarily lines up well because it comes off of the chorus, which seemed to be somebody who understood that change was necessary. The chorus even says at the end, I don't know if I'm going to make it. And for the song to say, things aren't working the way they are, we need to change. And then this part say, I'm not going to make it through the change, and you don't know how far I would go to not let this go. I don't see the correlation here. And that just kind of extends to the music too, where, like I had mentioned, it's a neat idea. The concept of mashing these two styles together and putting foreshadowing in there to subvert and do the rug pull later is very cool. But I don't get a story out of that either. They're two very separate ideas. And there's novelty to it. The concept is solid, but I'm not too sure about the execution of it. And I'm standing the same way with the lyrics. And I think there just needs to be a little bit more information presented in the bridge to explain what this perspective is and how it ties into the rest. Either that or I'm missing the larger idea here. Maybe the idea of change, the necessity to remove complacency and push forward, has something to do with this person who doesn't want to progress at all. Maybe it's an internal change rather than an external or a communal or societal change. But I don't know. The song is a bit vague in that respect. So I think that's where I stand on this. There's a lot of solid ideas in here. I think it's a very cool concept in general, but I feel like I'm just missing a little bit of detail in a couple of places to really tie it together into a strong work of art. But as usual, these are just my thoughts on Def Locust's Even in the Dark. What did you think of this? Is there anything that you'd like to add to what I said or correct me on? Do you have your own take, opinion, or perspective on this track? Please put all of that and anything else you'd like to say into the comment section below. Above that in the description box, there is a link for my link tree in there, but I'm also going to have links for Def Locust if you want to find their streaming platform, social media, anything else you can find, websites, merch. I'll toss all that in the description as well. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. If you head on over to any of their sites, make sure you thumbs up, hearts, likes, stars, whatever they use in order to get engagement on their social media. Show them a little bit of love from the Critical Reactions community. That's going to wrap it up for today. I'll be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 p.m. UTC as usual. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical. And have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you choose to watch my videos.